Well, first of all, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody. I hope we will be enjoying the next hour together, the next hour or two together, depending on how you feel interested in this. I would like first to thank Dr. Majid Hanna for his for giving us this opportunity to connect, and I'm sure that there is a lot of wealth, a lot of knowledge, skills here in this room. And by me trying to give this lecture, it's not a one-way thing. It is only to trigger this collective intelligence that is in the room. And exchange, it's also a huge opportunity to exchange our respective experiences. And I'm delighted to be with you today. So without overdue, I'll start by sharing my screen, and directly I will probably comment. Can you see my screen? Let me see. I'm gonna put it on a. Is this fine? Everybody can see my first slide?
Yes, it is seen, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if you have noticed here, I wrote the digital revolution, probably the biggest disruption in the since the alphabet. And to tell you the truth, it's I consider the alphabet as probably the most exciting invention of humankind, because just using few letters you can describe whatever you want, a feeling, a situation, space, an object, it is amazing. Then we went on and we created probably the next strongest abstraction, which is floor plans, elevations, sections, and so on, which reduce a 3D entity to a 2D document. We needed that to communicate with each other. But now that we have this new technology, which is this digital revolution, I think that plans, sections, elevations, and all the 2D details are obsolete, because why use that when you have the actual building simulated, for instance, in BIM, in Building Information Modeling? Why do you have that when you can actually move inside your building using the VR technology? Why do you have to, and so on. So I'm asking a few questions, and I think this is going to be a debate later on. I managed to create this little doodle video very quickly, just to introduce myself and introduce the topic today. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna share that with you. Very quickly, I will, let me discuss, of course. These will be dealt with point by point. But it is very important to mention that it is a fact that things are going very fast these days. And in few seconds, I'm going to share with you another video which you have probably seen before. So I'm not going to dwell a lot on, which is the way Dubai, changed from 1960 to date. And it's I think of it as a miracle, within such a short time, this city has blossomed in a fantastic way. And but as you well know, urban designers and urban planners, architects and designers in general need to reflect on their own experiences and discuss what could be done, what could have been done better, and so on. So let us have a look at this very quickly, and then maybe we could discuss a few things in Dubai. I'm just saying that as a person who witnessed all these changes to a certain extent, I mean, at least for the last 22 years, I feel that, you know, it was like almost moving faster than the GIS itself, you know, which is supposed to update all the changes that occur in the city. And of course, this is a very metaphorical expression, you know, but mental mapping was suffering this rapid change, you know, of the city. And people couldn't even remember what was happening, you know, or compute or process in their minds what was happening, to the point that at a particular time I took on a research on the way people perceive the city, and guess what? This beautiful island, which is the Palm Island, wasn't in their mind, so it wasn't in their mental map. So it was just that it wasn't processed yet, you know, just the speed at things, you know, where things had to. I'll go very quickly with this, and I don't want to bore you too much, but this will take about 4 minutes and a half, and I'm sure many of you have seen this video, but just wanted to make sure that we're all aware of how the city has moved on and the speed at which it developed. Obviously, every time, you know, probably I have a little story that goes with every town. I was saying that I have a little story connected with every major development in the city, and I remember one of my students was telling me that her grandfather was in a car with late Sheikh Rashid, rahimahullah. They were trying to choose a location for Jebel Ali, which is the industrial area in Dubai. And they were going on towards Abu Dhabi until they thought that he would never stop. And he decided to stop where Jebel Ali is, which is almost the limits of the Emirates of Dubai. And just to tell you that the gentleman was a visionary, you know, he understood that such an activity should not deal with the development of the city, and he saw Dubai moving from the old port to Jebel Ali easily. When I came here 22 years ago, I couldn't believe that the whole city was moving towards Abu Dhabi city. Imagine earlier than that. I have a little story to share with you in regards to the Palm Island and the metro line, which is this is the red line. I've always thought that instead of a metro line, a lane bus would have done, you know, would have done the job with less money, energy, and effort, and with more flexibility. But as you well know, decisions like this are not taken based on rational considerations all the time. They involve other things, you know, that make them what they are. And Dubai is a city a little bit like Vegas. It keeps the show going. It survives on being a city of superlatives, the tallest, the biggest, the largest, the newest, and which makes sense when you look at it. I think all of this has been inspired from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, who clearly mentions to everybody that there is no finish line race of excellence, you know? And that is a really inspiring expression, because really it had everybody think in a very proactive way, and everybody was trying to see if there is a way to impress and to be the best. I think this has been done already. It's not 2021, it's 2020. This one hasn't been done yet. I'm trying to, yeah. Actually, it's amazing how I hope you were hearing me. I tried to put down the sound, but the volume. But what I was actually saying is that this is a city of superlatives. You know, as I mentioned before, the tallest building and the largest mall and so on. And at a particular time, I also underwent research work on the perception of the city, but trying to find or locate the landmarks, architectural landmarks. And if you think of it, big cities like London and Paris and so on would count maybe 5 to 6 architectural landmarks, and that's how what a landmark is. It's something you use to organize your mental mapping and so on. But Dubai counted at that time, you know, and this was quite a while ago, about 25 architectural landmarks. And so it defeats the purpose really, because, you know, architects had the impression that every building should outshine the previous ones. And they didn't see that there was no problem with uniformity and harmony and things you find in every other city, you know. So there are things we have to discuss really. But let us move to this slide, which is questioning, you know, or addressing a few topics, you know. When I look at Dubai, and I look at the diversity, the architectural diversity in the city, I wonder whether this is not a neo-pop architecture, you know. When I mention pop architecture, I refer to the 60s and Vegas, Las Vegas in particular, where you have donuts and guitars and things like that. In fact, we used to have the Hard Rock Cafe in Dubai, which has 2 huge guitars in the city. It starts like that, you know, to a certain extent. And the question is, this neo-pop architecture, I'm glad it stopped in the 60s and late 70s, because as someone put it very rightfully, it was like creating God's own junkyard. You know, it's like if you wanted a shoe place, you have a shoe-like building. If you had you know, if you wanted a donut coffee shop, then you have a donut and so on. And we all know this hot dog kiosk and so on. And if we continued like that, then we could have ended up with cities that they look more like trash yards, you know. And so thank God we moved on. In Dubai, this never happened, thank God, you know. But we were very close to creating a catalog of architecture, you know, and you could find any style, any, I would sometimes discuss that with peers and say, we're losing the identity of Dubai, and they would tell me that that's the identity of Dubai, that is the identity of Dubai. So it's a debate really. I remember when Gulf News asked me about, you know, to throw in my 2 cents for the, in the inauguration of Burj Khalifa, and I said this is probably the most advanced piece of architecture in the world, and I mean it, really, I mean it. But I've never mentioned the architectural side of Burj Khalifa, because I thought that we missed the opportunity to show that this is in Dubai, happening in Dubai, and because it could be located anywhere in the world. But when you go deeply into this, maybe this is the identity of Dubai. It's to showcase the latest in technology and the latest in advancement. And I accept both ideas, really. The other thing is whether we're living now in Le Corbusier, remember, said that the house is a machine habitée, and the city is also like a machine. And for him, things had to be very mechanical, very rational, and so on. And I was wondering whether we are still talking about form versus function, and efficiency versus effectiveness. What is efficient is not necessarily effective. And space as a container of activities, or space as a place, my place, your place, the car's place, and things like that. Whether the city is a container or a space, a semiotic space, the Americans would call it semiotics, the science that studies signs. The French would call it semiology, because they think that de Saussure is the guy who created it. The others think that it's Peirce who created semiotics. But the whole idea is to relate signs to meaning, and that is something very interesting. But the other thing that came into the equation is the AR, VR, MR, and so on. So virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and big data. Big data, my God, this is the other thing. Or the city should be simply a way of life. So here is Le Corbusier, and with his very, very advanced, not necessarily good, advanced ideas about how cities should be. You have here Aubu in what he suggested for Algiers, and I'm glad he didn't do that, because can you imagine a big, a long building where cars, where you have a highway on top of the building, mind you, they're built in Algiers. There is a small building which roof is a road. Actually, it's in the center of Algiers. Not designed by Le Corbusier. It was one of his disciples, actually, who did that building in 1954. But Le Corbusier has been completely outsmarted by this new technology, and my fear is that architecture will become like a shelter, an empty place. It doesn't have to be very big. It could be just a small room, and all you have to do is put on this headset, and maybe you have a dozen of different decors in your library, e-library, and then you decide to one day you are in a very classical architecture, I don't know, Baroque or Gothic, and the next day you decide to be in a jungle, and so on. So you don't need really architecture. If this VR goes on, and you can really immerse into a space that a space of your choice, really. So you can choose the decor you want inside your house. Even the size doesn't matter anymore, because you could be living in a 2 by 3 square meter, 3 meters, so 6 square meters. And by putting these headsets, you can feel like you are in a palace, and you can move in a palace. So you can imagine. Now, architecture and cities had to make sense for a long time, but as I said, are we losing that? Because you see here, when I look at Burj Al Arab, which refers, it's a metaphor, it refers to a sail, okay? So, and this was, of course, intended to make sure that we, sailing activity, which was one of the major activities in the city of Dubai, was frozen for in a building, in a form of a building, for other generations to reflect on and remember and so on. So it strengthens really the identity of the city, even though it's a very modern building, you know. The funny story behind it is that we invited once Carlos Ott, who designed the National Bank of Dubai and designed many other beautiful buildings, actually. He said that this is a bad version of my sketch. And we were all laughing at it. But it is actually, in my opinion, a successful design. That's personal, of course. The Lotus building, which is a temple here, and so on. My idea is, are we still talking about gestures that mean something? Because remember, when people put a meaning or give a meaning to things, they understand them and they deal with them accordingly, and that's how they feel they belong to a place. And that's why I mentioned here semantics, which is the relationship between a sign and its meaning. It's like the equivalent of vocabulary in a spoken language. Syntactics, which is the relationship between signs themselves, so different parts of a building or different parts of a city. How do they communicate with each other? And that would be the grammar of in a spoken language or written language. And pragmatic aspect of meaning, which is the relationship between a sign and the behavior, people's behavior, how people behave when they see a particular building or a particular gesture, you know, and so on in a city. So these three elements to me are important because we experience the city in a certain way. We try to map it permanently to be able to feel safe, to belong to the place, and to build our individual memories and collective memories at the same time. And then you have the car. Obviously, we have to talk about the car, you know, because I chose this little picture here that shows cars like a century ago, almost a century ago, which started to become cumbersome, really, to a certain extent. And then they figured out a way to regulate the traffic. And you have this policeman who's in trying to control and organize the traffic, and with three of his colleagues to enforce the law. And the car made huge changes to the city, you know, by adding actually those roads and highways and parkings and all of that. But the next disruption is driverless cars, which I invite you to look at this MIT Sensible City Lab. I like it very much because I like the wording. They said, well, how about light traffic as opposed to traffic lights? So there is no need for traffic lights anymore. So have a look at this. Using sensors to stop and organize, turn and so on, you basically don't smoke signals. You don't need to have a license because it doesn't mean anything anymore. You don't need a car. Do you need to own a car? If cars don't need a driver, all you have to do is probably have cars parked in different places, just the way you find the bikes in Dubai. They are parked in different places, and you can take one and leave it somewhere else and then pay, and that's it. So you just enter your car and program the GPS for your destination and let it happen, and then you can lay down or work on your laptop or whatever, you know. So that's one thing. So why own a car? And the other thing, you can book a car just like the way you book an Uber car now. This is very important because car ownership is a new thing, you know, and I think you know that cars take two parking slots, one at home and one at your destination, you know, whether you're going to work or shopping or whatever you're doing. Okay, so, but if cars are not owned, they would need only one parking slot, and that is half parking slots on Earth saved, and that's fantastic. Since these cars are basically eco-friendly, they don't produce noise and pollution and things like that. You don't have to service them. They have you create different entities that could do that for you. So it's just a service. Okay, so I think we will be heading towards more service-oriented life in the future, and accordingly, cities have to adapt to this change. Now, talking about that is too easy. I think I'll show you in the next videos that, of course, you need to have an impeccable infrastructure. I mean, your roads should be perfect because any bump would be perceived as maybe an obstacle. You know, until we refine all of that, we need a 5G or even more stronger internet in the city. So the whole city should be covered with a strong internet. So because when you're moving at a certain speed, you need to, your sensors in the car should intercept signs and information from other parts of the city and process that those signs and react accordingly, whether you should stop, whether you should turn, whether you should. So it is not for tomorrow. So, but let me just elaborate on this idea of parking, you know, because we realize that most of the time our roads and our parkings are not really fully occupied. And some people have thought that maybe we should give multiple functions to these spaces so we take advantage of them. And maybe not design them so clearly like this, you know, and offer a more flexible design, you know, even on the ground, you know, maybe should be a mix of a few things. Some designers have already started that by occupying these empty spaces at times, and like a road could have, if a particular road in a neighborhood, you know, a secondary road or a tertiary road is not used after, let's say, Maghrib time, then maybe we could borrow one lane. If you have 2 or 3 lanes, borrow one lane and convert it to something else and enjoy it, you know. But when I see these, I'm always, you know, I'm always sad, really, you know, because it looks like designers take a piece of paper, a very peaceful piece of paper, blank paper, and then start drawing, and then they create problems, and then they start solving these problems, and then they're happy because they created some problems and they solved them. In my opinion, design should be suggesting a way of life that is very simple. As I told you, the metro in Dubai could have been a lane bus, just a lane bus. And the highway, Sheikh Zayed Road, could have been, I don't know whether you all know Sheikh Zayed Road. It's a major highway that goes through the city and divides it in two parts. And when I came here 22 years ago, I mentioned to the planning, I wanted to work for the planning department, and I told them, I think that there was nothing built, you know, it was the only towers where you have now, they call it the defense roundabout. It used to be the defense roundabout, and the clock tower was probably the last thing you would see. And then these towers, these two rows of towers on both sides. And I clearly noticed that they were separated by a seven-lane highway in the middle of city. It was clear that in Dubai, they didn't know that the city was going to expand. They thought that from clock tower, you had to take the highway to go to Abu Dhabi. That's it. But then they decided to expand on the city, to extend the city. And I told them very clearly, divert the traffic to a parallel to Sheikh Zayed Road at that time, and make Sheikh Zayed Road like a primary road where you can park and where you have traffic lights and when the bus can stop and things like that. And because otherwise you're going to have a lot of bridges, you know, like what you see here, because you want to go one side or the other. That's common sense. And I told them, enjoy the city. Let's not divide it in two parts, you know. And guess what? I didn't work for the planning department, although I was accepted. I prefer to come to the university and they have decided to have 2 or 3 parallel roads, which are Al Khail Road and Al Imarat, or Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Road and Al Imarat. So three parallel lines. And I still think that the traffic should be diverted. All those who, I think that Sheikh Zayed should be converted to a primary road, and just still it is possible. And so all the traffic that is not meant to stay in Dubai, to transit by Dubai, to go to Abu Dhabi, should just go to the other highways. You know, it's very, very simple. Anyway, let's not be very... Now, I wanted to show you, yes, these cars. You know, these cars are going to be equipped with a lot of sensors. And now we are all aware of these sensors that help you do your parking. And, you know, you'll have a sensor for heat, a sensor for distance, a sensor for brakes, a sensor for everything, you know. So, and I think that taxis will be fitted with more sensors to collect information about the city, because taxis are already organized in companies and we can control them to a certain extent and so on. And then I think after that, every car will be like collecting information, which will feed what we call big data. Big data is, as you well know, it's we collect a lot of information in real time. Sometimes you can, but who accesses that information is important, and also privacy, you know, because that data can be fatal to the city. So let's watch this other video here, just to give you an idea, you know, for those who are...
Smart communication between vehicles and cities is about to take a big leap forward. Your car's advanced driving assistance system will integrate the information captured by its own sensors with knowledge provided by the city in real time. Considerably expanding the vehicle's field of view and warning you of potential dangers before you see them. In the same way, the information captured by your vehicle will be fed back to the city, contributing valuable knowledge to its intelligent traffic management system, enabling it to detect areas of congestion or high pollution and redirecting traffic automatically as a result of this knowledge in real time. The European project CLASS is making this a reality, by converging and evolving high performance, low-power embedded and big data analytics computing technologies into a unified software architecture capable of efficiently coordinating and distributing computation resources along the compute continuum from edge to cloud. CLAS, developing technology for future smart cities and connected cars.
It is amazing how these things happen. You know, it's as I said, it's not for tomorrow because cities have to be ready for it, you know, and equipped with a lot of things, and cars have to be equipped also with these sensors, and this M2M technology has to develop, machine-to-machine technology has to develop accordingly, and our infrastructure, which is very important, you know, the roads should be good enough for that is all available in Dubai, by the way, you know, just for the anecdote, you know, this M2M situation, I happen to, you know how in our apartments and houses, we have these smoke detectors that are connected directly to the central box in the building, and that machine is connected to the central machine in civil defense, and it's all a machine work, you know, they call each other, and then the security guy gets a phone call to go and check on apartment such and such. And this happened to me 2 or 3 times because I dared to grill some steak. But the idea is that be careful, machines are taking over, you know, and you don't know it. Is it a good thing? I think yes, to a certain extent, as long as same thing with I'll put this video on, but I will because it shows you how it's done. But I'll put the volume a little bit down so I can talk. My problem with big data is that I have attended several PhD research, and they show you how urban planning can be based on big data because you have a lot of information. And I always say that big data should serve as information, not to guide design. Design should be a deliberate choice, you know, and I give you an example. You want to cook something, you know, you have a recipe or you don't have a recipe. When you don't have a recipe, you can go to the supermarket and find everything. Fill up your tray, your trolley, and then you have a lot of tools, instruments to process those goods you have bought. But you will never end up with a meal. Okay? But if you know what you want to cook, if you have an idea about your plan, then it is very clear that you will be able to select the ingredients you want for that meal and the tools to process them and end up with a good meal. So in my opinions, this big data is very good, but we should not be passive towards it. We should be rather active. We should decide what should be done in a city based on many other considerations, you know, which are, could be cultural, legal, financial, you know, it's a big matrix, you know, technical, but not let this go over us, you know, because it's not the right way. Now, I think this is my last video for the day, and I'll let you enjoy it because I think this is a powerful tool, which is SIM, City Information Modeling. You're all probably aware of building information modeling, which is the Revit and ArchiCAD and different solutions from different companies address very effectively, which is simulating, you know, building information modeling is simulating a building, you know, it's like when you draw a wall, it's a wall, it's not a line, and you're asked which material and you decide it's a brick, which size and so on. So it's like building it actually, you know, probably this. And by doing that, you can estimate quantities very easily, and you can estimate the cost of your building. But also by just moving your building one direction or another, you can estimate the difference in energy consumption and things like that. So it's not only a tool of design, but it's a tool and visualization. It's a tool of communication between the different actors in the building. So you can coordinate with engineers, with the contractors, and even with users and clients and so on. So everybody can have a say because it's all visual. Our students at AUD have been probably the first to include BIM courses as a required course, and we are the only academic institution that delivers, that tests and delivers BIM certificates. So if you want to be certified, you can take the exam at AUD. We are also very proud of that because, you know, we have been, we have had the first certified trainer, BIM certified trainer, and we equipped our graduates with this tool, powerful tool, before the municipality of Dubai made it a mandate, you know, so that people can need to submit their projects in BIM, Building Information Modeling. Now, SIM is what BIM does to a building, SIM does it to a city. A whole city could be documented. And this is amazing, and I invite you to watch this video as well.
We've seen how in the last 15 to 20 years, the impact of information communication technology has had in the way that we live in cities. We've got over 40 billion connected devices worldwide. We're collecting more data than we've ever collected before. And with all this data and all this processing power, we now have incredibly smart computers. So meanwhile, with all this amazing new technology, the way that we plan cities is still firmly stuck in the 20th century.
Future Cities Catapult is a technology and innovation centre partly funded by government. Our mission is to bring together cities, government, public sector and private sector to understand how data, design and technology can reveal new ways of managing and living in the city today.
We're trying to imagine what the planning system in 2050 could be like. And we envisaged this would be working around a 3D live simulation of the city. We're calling this SIM, City Information Model.
We're already seeing how some companies allow citizens to view new buildings before they're built. And we also think there are possibilities to enable people to chat with the planning application of that new building, to understand how much affordable housing it will deliver, how much green space it might deliver. We've also been working with the Centre for Advanced Spatial Analysis to understand what combinations of data are most valuable to city planners, to citizens, to people running parks and open spaces. Wildcatter have shown us some of the things that can be done combining visual models with data. We think there's much more that can be done through this. For example, Improbable are a gaming company who are starting to make city information models and simulations at a very large scale using very sophisticated computing power and data science.
This is the largest simulation of its kind ever created. This is a complete simulation of an entire UK city. Its telco network, its power grid, its transport network, its sewage systems, its housing demographics, even the way in which people move around and interact with the city. And it's able to run in real time using Unity for visualization and interaction with the simulation.
The way we plan cities today, it takes about 4 to 5 years to actually produce a plan. By the time these plans are done, these plans are out of date. If we have the city information model, architects and developers will be able to test their proposals before actually building them.
We think that a city information model should be valuable for a number of different actors in the city. So citizens can understand what's going on in their neighborhood, can view and query planning applications as they come in. Developers can use the city information model to test their planning applications. And politicians, as part of their manifestos, can provide a simulation of what they believe their policies will achieve and show how that will play out in the city information model.
The main challenge for us as a developer at the moment is the enormous amount of information that we have to give to the planning authority with our planning application. So from the developer's point of view, it'll be much quicker and cheaper. And from the planning authority's point of view, exactly the same as well. The primary beneficiaries are actually citizens, so I think it will drive a much more informed debate about development proposals.
A planning system of the future would be a lot more agile and a lot faster to basically both produce and to tweak and to change. And we envisage this would be done based on outcomes. Rather than counting only numbers of homes and numbers of jobs, we can actually start measuring health, well-being, and happiness.
Good. This is my last slide. It just shows that the city of New York and these red spots are places that are not used, like this empty shopping mall well, this visualized information can help planners to make a decision, planners and politicians and many people, on how to address this, because it's they have the potential to revive them, and by devising maybe a tax policy, a different one to encourage or incentives from banks, or you name it. There are different ways of reviving dead spaces. Okay, but really, what I thought about the previous video was amazing how we can use these tools, and I want you to insist. I want to insist on the word tool. It's not a solution. It's not a recipe. It is a tool, and I think we have to deal with it as such. Our students are very well equipped for that. In fact, our own students at AUD are computer maniacs, the computer freaks. They are very advanced when it comes to technology. They use the cloud for to render, to process their documents, and so on. We have an MOU with Autodesk, so we've been offered seats in the cloud so we can collaborate with different people from all over the world. In fact, just recently they took an exam, certification exam, BIM certification exam, and all they had to do from their homes, because they don't have access to our computers because of the lockdown, all they had to do is choose a browser and access on the cloud hardware and software at the same time. So you don't have to worry about your internet. You don't have to worry about the power of your computer. You don't have to worry about anything. So I remember the days where our students used to spend like 20 hours to render a perspective or render a movie application. And now it's all easy. And to tell you the truth, when this lockdown hit us all, we were very lucky because we were kind of prepared for all of this, and we communicate, we mirror our screens, and I use my iPad and I see exactly what I'm doing in real time and things like that. So things are being very simple. So we can work together at a distance and very, very efficiently. I thank you for being very, very patient. I know that some of you have already gone for a sleep, but I hope not many of you have done so. And I leave the stop sharing and I leave the floor to Dr. Majid.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nabil, for the exciting, open mind, presentation. It's a time now for a Q&A, but I have a question for you, Dr. Nabil. So from the presentation, we can see what is currently happening and what is the future will be. But if we try to tackle what can happen for the old cities across the globe, so it's like what can be a part of solution to have sustainable development into all the cities, into the urban plan. What do you think about that?
I mean, for old settlements, which basically are part of a heritage department somewhere, like in Dubai, the heritage department deals with these old settlements. And I think it's important to keep some of them. Not all of them, actually. Some of them is enough. I think what we have now at hand, we have these huge 3D scanners. You know, it's not a 3D scanner like the one you have, you know, for objects and so on. This is a new technology that can keep record of everything that is existing in your building. You know, it's like the SIM technology. It's like recording everything, every detail. Like 20 years ago, we used to have satellite photos corrected with photogrammetry and things like that. And we could reach certain quality and a certain fidelity, validity of the information. Before that, we used to do it using photos and hand drawings and measurement and things like that. I think that now we have powerful tools to first save time recording these buildings, which are a wealth of architecture. And then it's up to planners to decide what they want to do with it, because it's the whole thing about these new tools is to have the information. Now, the other thing you can do is use these tools to produce spaces and very quickly concert and discuss with specialists all over the world. You know, like this session we're having now, we could share a document and discuss it, and very quickly we could save months, if not years, of discussions. Just for the little anecdote, you know, it's very important to note that once I had to design 18 hectares in the Bay of Saint-Tropez in France, and I've been asked to develop a green settlement and so on. And I decided to share that with my students. And guess what? I gave them only the Google coordinates. That's all. And these students produce all the topography. They got all the information in a matter of a week. They had, I think, more knowledge of the site than probably the people who live there. You know, so you can see how powerful, you know. And they started formalizing. They started bringing, you know, brainstorming physically, you know, and digitally, you know, ideas and so on. So that's the advantage. That's the advantage.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nabil. If anyone you have a question, if you can just unmute yourself and you can ask Dr. Nabil directly the question.
Thank you, Dr. Majid. Actually, yes, I have a question if you can allow me to.
Please, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nabil, for the very interesting presentation. And I agree with you that actually, I'm talking about transportation. My field is transportation planning and traffic engineering. So that's why I'm talking about something related to transportation. I really agree with you in most of the things that you said about transportation, and that we have something like maybe higher supply in some areas in the city. But I would like just to highlight one point. Inside major developments, inside mega developments, we always have a challenge that the master planners trying to maximize the use of the land inside the development and leaving very small areas to transportation. And actually, I can understand that this is required to satisfy the clients, the developers' point of view from the usage of the land. I mean, maximizing the benefits. But the challenge is that from the transportation point of view, we have also to satisfy the things that related to delay and level of service and all these things. So how, from your point of view, this balance can be reached? Thank you.
This is an excellent question because, you know, we tend to think that an urban plan is happens on a iPad or on a desktop, or in the old days on a table, on a drafting table. An urban plan should be a melting point of the different interests of the different actors in the city. It should be always negotiated. It should be always an optimal solution that satisfies all the actors in the city. In Dubai, for a long time, investors and developers have led the ball. You know, they were the ones that were kind of the steam for the planning and for the development of the city. And I can tell you that the planning department was trying to catch up all the time with that. You know, in other places, you know, you plan and you have a plan, and by the time you apply what you have in your plan is obsolete, as it was mentioned in one of the videos. In Dubai, it's the other way around. Those developers were so much ahead of the planning department, so they were just trying to catch up. You know, when I discussed about the Palm Island in Jumeirah, the first one, can you imagine, like, a huge portion of the city was born, is the newborn in the, when you have a baby at home, you start preparing for the bed and for the, you know, for the room and so on. Imagine this is a whole portion of the city coming into the city, and all the traffic had to adjust to that, all the traffic lights, all the, you know, and when it was built, my friends came to see me and they told me, what did you tell us when we were going to build this Palm Island? I said, I don't remember. They told, and then they reminded me, I told them that the traffic would be a problem because it's like going into a dead end. You know, imagine you have to, all the traffic, all the cars and vehicles you need to deliver goods and services and people and all of that, going in the dead end and coming back to the same point. I told them that that's really very, very difficult. So, and I'm still thinking that they should go underwater from the crescent and reach the shore to create a loop, because it is not enough. It is not enough. I was once on the crescent, at one edge of the crescent, and I was trying to go back to Dubai, and I live just next door. It took me like an hour and a half or 2 hours. I wanted to swim back, you know, to Dubai, you know, but I don't like sharks. I don't know whether there are sharks there or not. But yes, you're right. I think that what should be done is make sure there is a compromise between, and that's the role of the master planner, is to make sure that there is a melting point of interests of interest groups, or what I call them pressure groups. But let me tell you one thing. You're very lucky in Dubai, because the decision-making process is much fluid, okay? In other places, you know, to do anything, you'll have NGOs, you'll have political parties, you'll have, you know, different authorities, you'll have a land tenure. Land tenure is a big issue, you know. If you can't have a deed for your land, you cannot do anything, you know. And sometimes these things, you have conflicts, and these takes years to settle and puts back everything. In Dubai, we don't have that. So I don't know whether I answered your question, but normally this is how it should happen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Nabil. Yes, you really answered my question. Actually, I just want to add one thing, that there is also another factor, that if we will be successful to move from transportation attitude to mobility attitude, this will solve much of the problem also. Definitely, because yes, what is called these days as mobility as a service, which is from origin to destination, multimodal model, I think this will also have some good feedback on this.
Very true. Totally agree. Totally agree.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Just a quick question again, Dr. Nabil. It's like now we are talking about again a huge revolution of the technologies. How, if we talk about the future engineers, is how it should be today should be prepared, into this type of environment. It's like working from homes, working from different parts of the world. So how, if you talk, and I know there is a lot of people attending from different countries here. So how can be the future engineers should be prepared to be highly equipped and skilled with the right skills to find the quick jobs, recruited, and also if for the current engineers, which is old, most probably like us, it's like, so how can they be cope with this change? What do you think about these two? So it's like a part of new generations and a part of what we have to do if we are old generations. So what we have to do. So please, if you can advise.
Well, actually, this is in the heart. This is a great question because it's as you have probably noticed, everybody is trying to revamp everything because of this. What is happening nowadays in terms of this digital revolution, which I think is the biggest disruption after the alphabet. And whenever I say that, people laugh at me, and I really mean it. I really mean it. Anyway. We are also trying at the university, to revamp the university, reconsider. For instance, in the School of Architecture, Art and Design, we're trying to create a concentration where students can take a group of courses which lead them to create their own startup. So we will not be graduating only students with degrees, but also with their companies, with their own companies. So instead of throwing into the market a job seeker, we will give to the market a new company. Okay, so it's why? Because we think that there is an opportunity there, and to do that, we would like to organize the university like again, I go back to the shopping mall, but with stations, okay, with different stations, and then you go and take certificates, you take a little certificate for, let's say, building codes and systems, so you learn how to, the fire regulations, the accessibility, things like that, related to, and then you take another group of courses which are related, for instance, to the history of architecture, and you have a bunch of courses which are related to the digital skills. We do have that at AUD. We have what we call DDDFT group of courses, which is digital design and fabrication technology courses. We have like 10 courses, and students can choose a group of these courses. They also take a group of courses that help them with structure, construction, and all of these things, and so on. So we think that instead of having a very traditional academic type of studies like I did, which could take a long time, and sometimes students see it as irrelevant. I give you an example. By taking our students in a tour, we give them a course for three credits. We take them 1 week to 10 days to Europe, and they learn. We collaborate with another university in Europe, and we take them and make them see and witness history, and we discuss every day. We go out and we give them assignments, of course, and you can't imagine how easy they learn history, because you're talking about a Gothic building and you have a Gothic building. You're talking about a neoclassic building and you have another. You're talking about the Corinthian column and you have the Corinthian column. It's there. You're talking about the street and a perspective, and you take them where it is, and so on. So for them, it's so easy. And guess what? They don't use anything. They use Instagram. They collect information, and then we stop somewhere, and then they discuss what they have collected because they have already shared that information. So you see, these tools are making it different. They can also trace the path they have checked, and with milestones and so on. There are applications now that make that possible. So a huge course of history. It was the most boring course in my days. Okay, you can compress in one study tool. That's Same thing for, the way I learned drafting and drawing perspectives, it was pulling teeth, to draw a perspective with the 3 vanishing points or 2 vanishing points and highlight, height line and whatever, and casting shadows. I even teach this course. But now take SketchUp, you learn in 5 minutes, okay? And then you start casting shadow the way you want. You can generate perspectives the way you want. You can place it in the model in Google Map, in a Google thing, and you can adjust the perspective to a picture. You can do whatever you want. I was giving a lecture to a workshop in another country to decision makers, and I wanted, it was on risk management, and I know that you are an expert in risk management, so I'll be very cautious now. But I was showing them, and I took a SketchUp and I put, I selected a satellite picture on a place in that city, and I showed them by using the terrain, I showed them the most vulnerable places in terms of flooding, okay? It was in 5 minutes, okay? In the old days, you would use topographers for months, to produce the contour lines, and then to identify the places which are the most floodable areas. That would take also some time. So I told them, okay, go to these places and do something. If there is a flood, these will be the most vulnerable places. And I did the same thing for crimes. I told them, okay, based on information from police stations and so on, I visualized where most of the crime happened. And I told them, okay, guys, planners, go there and do something. Maybe you need a tank. Maybe you need I don't know, you need an army in those places, or maybe all you need is a camera, or maybe you need to fix the space, to make it more visually accessible and more, anyway. So this is what I'm saying, really. But when you mention old, yes, we're old, and I am old. We are, because I can see a lot of young people. I am old, and I'm okay with that, and because I have decided to embrace this new technology. I don't want to be left over, and I am a life learner, a long life learner, so I learn all the time, and I introduce myself to my students as a teacher learner, and then they laugh at me because they think, oh, he's trying to, this is false modesty, it's like he's trying to show that he's modest and humble, but we will see later on. But then they realize that they teach me plenty of applications. They teach me, all the things that I don't know, I remember I saw something and I thought, how did you produce this? They said, CAD mapper, can you teach me? Yes. And then, how did you Placemaker? I love Placemaker because it corresponds to what I know, but City Engine, I don't know, so I take a course, that's how we do it. And I'm always in contact with young people, so I'm always young at heart. I'm lucky when it comes to that.
That's a good. Thank you very much, Dr. Nabil. I think it is true that we need to cope with the newest technologies it exists now. Yes, we are not from the same era, but we need to cope out and we need to learn the new skills so we can know what is the future language it will be. As it will be very important that all the new projects, it will be requested, or it's coming in the tender or the request for proposal that you need to use this type of technologies. So I think it's what Dr. Nabil take us today in a journey is to see that we need to be with the change more than is against the change. And I recall one of the movies, they were saying that you need to be agile. And that is very important into this type of environment, agility of organization. If you are a contractor, if you are a consultant, if you are academia and university, it is a time for a change. Don't think that after the pandemic, we will get back to our old ways. It's gone, unfortunately. What if it has been, let's say, to be have a change of digitalization and technology can be take maybe 20 years. It just happened in nine or 10 months. It has been done. So don't think that after the vaccine will be out, we will get back to our old traditional. If we talk about construction today, we will talk about 3D printing. We talk about robotics, and if we talk about architecture, we talk about VRs. We talk about BIM and Revit, and doing models to try to assess schedule, cost, the project management, risk. As Dr. Nabil mentioned, that is all. This is a new language. And you will need to learn with these tools, because I like also what Dr. Nabil insists in. It is a tool. So we are the brain, we are the decision maker, but we need to learn these tools in order to utilize it for our project, for our city, or for as a sustainable and as a global already wide. Thank you very much, Dr. Nabil. Anyone have other questions?
Just a comment. This is Kamal Malas. I just to thank Dr. Nabil for his lecture, and I thank him so much for referring to the old days where we were suffering from the slow motion of the computer. I remember when I was moving the mouse and then waiting more than 1 hour, then the graphic will come back to the position which I want to start this. I thank him for him so much for this, and I thank you and him for organizing this webinar. And also I want to add that it is very important to publish how the new engineer could be educated in the way which Dr. Nabil has said about it and you said about it. So it must be formulated in a way that all of the universities must adopt a new way of teaching the engineer, because the engineer in the future is different from the engineer in the past. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal. Okay. I think if there is no other questions, thank you very much, Dr. Nabil again. Sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Yes. Hi, Nermeen. Yes, you can go ahead.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Majid Hanna, Dr. Nabil. Good morning, everybody. Firstly, I would like to thank you for this nice and beneficial webinar. I just want to add a comment. We know that we are living, we know that the living offers, the living urbanization may offer many benefits to the residents, including more jobs, for example, opportunities and higher incomes, and to business, including lower input costs. It may give greater collaboration and innovation opportunities. But urbanization, especially if it's rapid, for example, it can also bring challenges. For example, I think the city governments and policymakers must plan for to manage the impacts of urbanization on poverty, for example, inequality, employment, services, transport, climate change, and politics, for example. Only by addressing these interconnected issues and both the technical and political barriers to change can they ensure a good quality of life for millions of urban dwellers. Also, more people, they say sometimes for rapid urbanization, it may have like negative challenges, such as they say more people will be living in insecure rented houses, or the number of people will live without basic water and sanitation will be also increasing. For example, growing cities lead to more congestion and traffic facilities. Also, the energy demand, we can't forget this. The energy demand will rise faster than population growth if it's not planned in a good way. So I think it is beneficial to do such a thing, but I think it has to be properly planned to have the perfect result of it. So, Dr. Nabil, what do you think? Can you just tell us about more sides of this thing, especially? Thank you.
Thank you, Nermeen. This is dead on to the point. It's a very good remark and comment. In fact, I totally agree with you. It's a big matrix. Urban design is a big matrix, and there are many actors and different disciplines that go into it. I mean, just name it. I mean, in Dubai, you have DIWA, you have RTA, you have Dubai Municipality, you have the guys, the banks, the contractors, the designers, the developers, you know, and you name it. And also people, the users, sometimes they are organized in certain ways to defend their interests. And as I said, I think it should be a melting point, that your action in the city should be a melting point of all these interests, and including people, of course. I probably mentioned showed Dubai as a rapid change, but what the whole presentation was about rapid change in terms of tools that we have in our hands. I definitely don't think that we should all speed up in terms of everything should take its own time, because it's like things have to mature before you can claim their potential. It's like concrete; it needs 28 days or 21 days. But if you add admixtures, you can get roughly the same strength. But this is what I'm saying. If you have the right admixtures, you see, it's very important. Now, social equity and all of that is a very, very important topic. And as you said, rightfully, I hope that these new technologies will contribute to creating new jobs and more accessible jobs. Because you see, this happened in the era of industrialization, you know, like a century ago. Again, it looks like everything is happening a century ago. Many people were scared from machines because one machine could replace like 10 people, okay, at that time. And everybody was scared. And then new jobs were created, like those guys who do the maintenance of the machine, you know, the guys who produce the machine, the guys who do the transportation of these machines. And because you had more production, you needed more people to transport the product. And because you had vehicles that were more performing, so you could take your merchandise or your product far away from the production place, and you started creating other production places because you can access them in a relatively short time, and so on. What will happen, hopefully this time as well, with this new digital revolution, is that more jobs will be created, but different jobs. So that's why we have to adjust and adapt very quickly, just to be in the system, not out of the system. Okay, and you guys, you are I always say I am on the wrong side of 50, so I have a different perspective of things. You guys are definitely on the right side of 50, and you should look at things with a lot of hope and a lot of you know, a lot of good ideas, hopefully.